is Valley News Live at 4.
New at 4, a man charged with 3 counts of murder in the shooting deaths of 2 co-workers and their unborn child at a factory in North Fargo last year will no longer plead guilty and is instead going to trial. 36-year-old Anthony Reese is charged with 2 counts of intentional murder and 1 count of murdering an unborn child. Police say he opened fire at a factory in North Fargo on November 17th. It happened just minutes after co-workers say Reese was fired from Composite America. Reese is charged with killing 43-year-old Richard Pittman and 32-year-old April Carbone, who was 8 months pregnant. And the trial for a man accused of a sexual assault involving a student at North Dakota State University officially started today. Alex Smith is accused of an assault from 2020. The prosecutor waived opening statements this morning, and the defense explained what evidence they will be showing. The victim in the alleged sexual assault was cross-examined and was the nurse who was examined her, as was the nurse who examined her, The trial is expected to last 3 days. And a Brainerd man is accused of killing and burying his daughter's boyfriend, who he believed was abusing her. 43-year-old Michael LaFlex is facing the charge of second-degree murder with intent. LaFlex's daughter filed a missing persons report last week, stating that her boyfriend had not returned after visiting a storage unit rented by her father. Investigators searched the storage unit and found blood and a bottle of bleach, and the victim's body was found Sunday. The autopsy report says the man died of a distant gunshot wound to the back of the head. Well, it is 4 o'clock now, and taking a look at our Skycam, things are looking pretty nice out there. How nice will they be able to get, though? Let's send things over to meteorologist Jim Gash with a closer look at our weather. Hey, Jim.
Hey, Bobby. Things are very nice out there, but we have been watching this fire on the Skycam here in Devil's Lake. It's probably just some agricultural burning as we move later on in the fall season. However, things aren't feeling like fall out there. They're feeling like summer, with a lot of the area seeing temperatures in the 70s, though there are some upper 60s, mid to upper 60s up in the north, though Aberdeen there sitting at 74 degrees. Jamestown also at 74, and up along the border, Langdon there at 64 degrees. We are seeing some clouds move into the region. We have had clear skies for much of the day, and as a result, we were able to reach those high temperatures, and we did see some sprinkles near Langdon earlier, but not much associated with that. Now, we'd have canceled that first alert weather day on Friday, but we could still see some light snow and some winds with that, and as well as our temperatures dropping pretty drastically as well. Here in Fargo, though, tonight we're going to see those temperatures drop only into the 50s as we see those clouds and some southerly winds throughout the nighttime period. Now, Bobby, I'll have more information about that chance for snow as well as how long this nice weather will last coming up in just a few minutes.
Well, hoping the nice weather will last for a while, and I'm hoping that you say the S word won't be here or won't be as bad when we see it. Jim, thank you so much. And as a reminder, you can now cast your ballots for the upcoming midterm election in Cass County. You can go to the Fargo Dome, West Acres Mall, Northview Church, the Hartle Ag Building at the Red River Valley Fairgrounds, or the Days Inn in Castleton. Now, hours of early voting precincts are 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And now Cass County residents will be able to check on wait times at each of the available polling locations before going out to cast their vote for the 2022 general election. The dashboard can be accessed by visiting casscountynd.gov/elections. And to also find out what will be on your ballot, go to valleynewslive.com and click on the Election Home tab. And Minnesota Governor Tim Walz made his way to Moorhead and Fergus Falls today. Walz met with farmers at the Yumkomst Center this afternoon and then did some door knocking in Moorhead. Now, he will be in Fergus Falls at 5:30 tonight for a meet and greet at Union Pizza. And candidates up and down the ballot are making their closing arguments to voters this week as the election nears. At the top of the ticket, the race for Minnesota governor. DFL incumbent Tim Walz faces Republican challenger Dr. Scott Jensen in a matchup that is recently much closer. Just 2 months ago, one poll showed Walz with a double-digit lead over Jensen, but now more recent surveys paint a different picture, one where Walz's advantage has narrowed. Caroline Cummings has more.
What we have is a movement.
1 week until Election Day, Dr. Scott Jensen rallied with his supporters Monday in Golden Valley with a boost from Iowa's Republican Governor Kim Reynolds.
But it certainly is, thank goodness, a stark contrast to your lockdown governor that you currently have.
Now, Walz and Jensen are both making their final pitch to voters.
My closing argument is the heroes of Minnesota are the everyday people. They're saying we've had enough. We think that Minnesota was not, if you will, governed as if the governor trusted us.
Democrats were quick to attack the visit, condemning Reynolds on her policies on schools and abortion and accusing Jensen of wanting to copycat her.
We need to re-elect Tim Walz, and hopefully Kim Reynolds will have a nice time today in our state and get a better understanding of why Tim Walz is the governor of the greatest state in the nation.
Reynolds, the vice chair of the Republican Governors Association, which has recently pumped hundreds of thousands of dollars into Minnesota for TV ads like this one.
He pushed to defund our police, and when Minneapolis was burning, Walz was missing in action,
making the false claim that Walz wanted to defund the police. Hamline University political science professor David Schultz says out-of-state spending might be a signal.
I think what we're seeing is a perceived vulnerability by the Republicans that if we make this last-minute push on the advertising, going after the undecided voters to change their mind, maybe we can do enough to flip this state.
The campaign arm of the Democratic Governors Association is also pouring last-minute money into Minnesota as the DFL tries to keep its winning streak alive. Republicans haven't won statewide office here since 2006.
There's no question that the race is tightened.
And Jensen and Walz both have packed schedules from now until Election Day, crisscrossing the state in order to win your support. Well, the Fargo Y is offering a class on voting for young adults today. It's from 6:30 to 8 o'clock tonight at the downtown Furcho YMCA. You'll learn about how to read a ballot, the importance of casting your vote, and among other things. Classes are free and open to the community. It's part of the Y's Adulting 101 series, which will include topics like filing taxes, basic car maintenance, and financial planning. Well, thousands of volunteers have traveled to Ukraine to help assist people displaced by the war, and one man who grew up in Devil's Lake was one of those volunteers who traveled to the country. Lance Putnam served in the military for 26 years and was deployed several times into combat zones. This time, however, was different as he was working as a humanitarian, helping to assist those in need at the war zone.
Most of the people there, they haven't had water, they haven't had electricity, they haven't had even like basic health care for the last 6 months. And so we saw a need to be able to go in there and start providing some of those essential services.
Yeah.
Lance and his wife Jenny have plans to return overseas later this year to continue their humanitarian work. And more fines are coming to the Dollar General Corporation. OSHA has now issued $2.7 million in penalties after more inspections. That brings the total to $12.3 million since 2017. Now, OSHA is also investigating the Dollar General in Castleton, and citizens have filed complaints against the store in Ada, Minnesota. Over the past 5 years, OSHA has found unsafe conditions that expose workers to the possibility of being struck by falling boxes of merchandise or trapped or unable to exit the store safely in an emergency, and more than 180 inspections at Dollar General stores nationwide. OSHA officials say that Dollar General has shown a pattern of alarmingly willful disregard for federal safety standards, choosing to place profits over the employees' safety and well-being. And some sad news today. Former Minnesota co-defensive coordinator Adam Zimmer, who was an NFL assistant for 17 years and the son of previous Vikings head coach Mike Zimmer, has died. His younger sister confirmed the death on Instagram. At this time, a cause of death has not been given. Zimmer was working this offseason as an offensive analyst for the Cincinnati Bengals after 8 years with the Vikings under his father. He was 38 years old. And it's day one of the Cans to Cartons Recycling Challenge. All this month, Minn Kota Recycling will provide a 1 cent per pound match to Fargo Elementary School milk and snack programs for all aluminum cans collected at drop sites. There are 10 drop-off locations listed right now on your screen. They include elementary schools, the Coliseum Water Treatment Plant, the Park District Headquarters, Mickelson Field, and the Osgood Fire Station.